they didn't ripen. This one right here is the largest tomato I had on that plant right there. I don't even know if this one's soft enough to cut up. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having an awesome day. It is Tuesday, December 3rd here in South Georgia. About 48 degrees out here right now, and I'm about to freeze, but enough about my cold intolerance. On today's video, I want to talk about this one tomato plant right here and what it has taught me, or maybe I should say reminded me, over the last couple months as I've watched it grow, and why you shouldn't get disappointed if your tomato plants don't look like someone says they should. So to kind of set the stage here, we decided to try fall tomatoes for the first time this year. We planted about 6 plants in this bed right here, and the cutworms were really bad when we planted them. Replanted several times and ended up just having this one plant that made it. And just as a side note here, before anybody makes any assumptions, no, I'm not trying out any kind of new garden wizardry or sorcery here. This is something Titus bought from little boy the library that was selling them, raising money for something, and Titus bought one and decided we should stick it right there. Anyways, I wanted to come out here today and do this video because I'm not sure this tomato plant is going to make it through the night. It's supposed to get down to 26 tonight, which would definitely zap it. I'll try to cover it if I have time once I get done wrapping all my pipes and stuff. So I think 26 degrees uncovered will definitely zap this plant, but surprisingly it has already survived a couple light frosts down in the low 30s. You can see some damage there on top of that plant there, but it didn't kill it completely. Surprised me a little bit. I thought it would have been toast by now. But despite that frost damage, if we can just kind of look past those few burnt leaves a little bit here, I can confidently say that this may be one of the prettiest tomato plants I have ever grown. So before the frost nipped those leaves, this tomato plant looked like one of those you would see in a seed catalog or maybe in a fancy gardening magazine. And in the past, when I've seen pictures of tomato plants that look like that with virtually no blemishes on them at all, I always kind of wondered how they got their tomato plants to look like that. I had kind of an idea, but now it all makes sense. And before we go any deeper, I should probably mention that our spring tomato planting is consistently bountiful for us. The plants may not look that great, but we always get loads of tomatoes from our spring tomato planting. We don't ever get skunked on those. So our spring harvest or our early summer harvest is always a good one. I just never had plants that look this great. So why is that? Well, a lot of this is intuitive and common sense to a lot of gardeners, but it really helped me to see it in person this fall and really process the reasons why. So number one, the ideal temperature range, according to the Google, and I wouldn't disagree with them on this one, the ideal temperature range for growing tomatoes is from 70 to 85 degrees. Once you get hotter than 85, you can start seeing some problems. The plants start to get really stressed. And the problem that we have down here is that we don't stay in that 70 to 85 range very long. We get hot really quick in the spring, so we're not in that ideal range for very long. So that means that our spring tomato plants are frequently stressed. They're still productive. They just don't look as good as this tomato plant here does because this one has been grown more in that ideal temperature range. And then number two, diseases thrive in the heat. Things like blight, wilt, and several other things that can plague our tomato plants. So not only are those plants just simply stressed from the heat, they're also stressed by the diseases that are amplified during the heat. And that's why we mostly have to grow and rely on disease-resistant varieties down here. We'll plant some heirlooms, but they're not consistently successful. We grow those disease-resistant varieties because we know we can count on those. And number three, because our plant growing season is longer, our pest growing season is also longer. Because we have more warmer days down here, that means the pests have more time to reproduce and multiply and cause even more problems in the garden. Now, a healthy plant that's not experiencing any temperature stress, like these blue collards here, can kind of outpace any insect pressure or outgrow the insect pressure. They can grow faster than the insects can hurt them. But a tomato plant in the early to mid-summer months down here that's already dealing with a good bit of temperature stress is going to be less likely to be able to fight back against a lot of that insect pressure. Now, like I said earlier, a lot of this is intuitive. It's not rocket science, but it does help to see it in person, and it helps explain why we see pictures and posts online of gardeners maybe in the middle or northern part of the country with these just lush, beautiful looking tomato plants, when ours are looking kind of pitiful, productive, but maybe looking a little pitiful. And with that being said, I think there are some really good takeaways from this that we can all use going forward. So number one, I think more of us, especially down here in the deep south, should be trying to grow fall tomatoes. Now, I've got to get better with my timing. I put these in the ground too late. They didn't ripen. This one right here is the largest tomato I had on that plant right there. I don't even know if this one's soft enough to cut up and fry. So you can see we've got a ways to go before we had any ripe red tomatoes here. Got to get better with my timing, but I think everyone, especially in the southern climate, should try fall tomatoes at least once, and maybe you'll see, like I did, that the plants much prefer the fall weather over that spring to summer weather. Number two, don't get discouraged. It may be time for some of us to realize that it's just not possible for us to have absolutely fabulous looking tomato plants from that spring to summer grow out when it's getting hot really quick. I think a lot of times we end up chasing our tails, fertilizing more, using different types of fertilizers, using different gardening techniques, trying all these things to improve soil health to get our tomato plants to look like they do somewhere else, when in reality it may not be possible given where you live because of the heat, the disease, and the insect pressure. You may be chasing something that's not really attainable. And number three, don't get bullied and don't be jealous. I see this all the time online on gardening threads, posts on different videos. Someone will post a picture of, say, their tomato plant, for example, and someone else will chime in telling them all the things they're doing wrong, why their tomato plant doesn't look that great, when in reality they may be doing the absolute best they can. It's just that their plant has been grown in a warmer climate. It's undergoing all this heat stress, disease pressure, insect pressure, and there's not a whole lot they can do. So don't let anyone bully you like that online, and also don't be jealous of those people who post their pictures of beautiful tomato plants. Realize that they probably live in a different climate. Their plants are experiencing different levels of stress than your plants are, and so just be happy for them and be happy for the tomatoes you're going to get. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Now I've got to go put on another layer as we creep into the low 40s this afternoon. Got to get all my pipes wrapped, and hopefully I'll have time to cover this baby right here so she can make it another week. And if you want to know more about all this beautiful lettuce that we have growing in the bed with this tomato plant, watch this video right here. We'll go through several different strategies for planting and spacing out lettuce. Also tell you some of our favorite varieties to grow down here. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.